أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم الخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Today I believe is the 18th episode, 18th lesson of our Islamic studies series, alhamdulillah. And as we agreed and as we said last time, alhamdulillah, over the past 17 or so lessons, we've finished the first pillar of Islam. If we finished, meaning we've covered it with some overview and a little bit of detail here and there as and when required. And so inshallah today will be our next section, the next pillar of Islam, which is the Salah. And Salah is of course preceded by its necessary requisite preparation, which is the tahara and wudu itself. Now, before we go to wudu, there is a small introductory section, paragraph, which is about the types of water, because the origin and the asl of wudu is with water. And so what are the types of waters that a person may use for wudu? So the section we're reading, as we said before, we're reading from this kitab, which is called Ascent to Felicity, which is in Arabic called Maraq al-Sa'adati fi ilmay al-Tawheed wal-Ibadat, by a scholar by the name of Abu al-Ikhlas Ashur Bulali, who is also the author of many famous works, including Nur al-Idah, which is a very famous and very important Hanafi book on law, on Islamic law, on fiqh. And I just wanted to give you, we've covered this before twice, like I said, but just for those of us perhaps, watching it for the first time or joining us for the first time, I will just want to read to you a few lines of the blurb at the back, which says that this book is written by an eminent 11th century Hanafi scholar by the name of Abu al-Ikhlas Ashur Bulali. And the reason why we're doing Hanafi fiqh is because, first of all, that's my background, and secondly, because it's generally the South Asian sort of continent, the Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India and so on, that's the method that's followed. That does not mean to say at all that the other schools of law are in any way, shape or form incomplete or otherwise. Rather, they are complete legal schools, and any one of them, following any one of them, is correct and not questioned at all, and is rather praiseworthy. So this particular book is written by an 11th century Hanafi scholar by the name of Abu al-Ikhlas Ashur Bulali, which is a place in Egypt. He was an Egyptian Azhari scholar, and is translated as Ascent to Felicity, is a concise yet comprehensive primer in creed and jurisprudence. Creed because it covers the first pillar of Islam, but when we studied these 17 lessons that are passed, which was generally about the first pillar, which is about shahada and creed and aqidah, if you like, wasn't necessarily per se from this book. Rather, it was we took from different sources. We sometimes dealt with ayat directly, ahadith directly, and so on. So we took this as a sort of the first pillar. We took that as a guideline that we're going to study the first pillar, and now we're going to go to the second pillar and third pillar and so on, eventually inshallah. But the creed itself wasn't completely covered from here. It spans all 5 pillars of Islam, as well as the topics of slaughtering and ritual sacrifice, which is the udhiyah, which is the Eid al-Adha. And also some rules regarding hunting is brought in towards the end of the book. To supplement the text, the translator has added, and the translator is of course Faraz A. Khan, that's the name of the translator. The translator has added in key explanatory notes, which is notes at the bottom of each page, taken from several reliable works on theology and jurisprudence. So because it's a Hanafi school of Hanafi text, he will be referencing and adding in comments and explanations from other Hanafi sort of books and manuals and encyclopedias in the notes section as he proceeds, as the translator proceeds. And then he says he also has added appendices that comprise of numerous supplications related to the 5 pillars of Islam, presented with Arabic script along with the English translation, as well as the etiquettes of visiting ziyarat and etc. of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Medina. And of course Hajj and Umrah already cover the section of Makkatul Mukarramah and Haram al-Makki. As for some of the comments that have been made about this book, some of the reviews, for example, Shaykh Faraz Rabbani, who is the educational director of seekersguidance.com, or this institute, he says that this is an excellent primer in Islamic belief and worship, more useful as a first complete text for those seeking to understand of the fiqh of worship than more commonly studied Nur al-Idah. So this is a good book for someone who's learning about fiqh, and it's a very good starting primer and so on. Mufti Mangera, Abdul Rahman bin Yusuf al-Mangera, who is the scholar of Zamzam Academy and is also, I believe, the director of White Thread Press, which has published this book. He says that aside from the flowing translation, the most impressive thing about this work for me is the comprehensive collection of nuanced notes. These serve to capture the wide range of issues one grapples with but might never find the right answer to. In the process of his or her purification, prayer, fasting and other acts of worship, an extremely engaging and educational read. And I thoroughly agree with this, because one of the best things about this book is, of course, the translation itself, but I think most impressive are the notes at the bottom, which give you a very good explanation and reference reliable books and so on to explain the points that I mentioned above. Now, with that, page number 41, it says purification and tahara. Purification is valid with the following types of water. When we say purification, what does it mean? Legally, as we know, every word has a linguistic meaning and a legal istilahi meaning. So legally and in fiqh, what purification refers to is the removal of filth, najasat or najis, from a person's body. What is najasat, what is najis, what is filth? We'll cover all of that. But generally, the concept of purification, or the idea of purification, entails that we are removing something that which is filth or dirt from a person's body or a person's garment, and the place of their worship as well. So to make sure, when we say purification, we're not talking about purification of the walls of a mosque, for example. We're not talking about the purification of the streets. We're talking about purification when it comes to a person's body, their clothes, and their place of worship. That's what sort of legally and technically the kind of purification that's understood when we say purification is valid with the following types of water. As well as the removal of one's state of ritual impurity, thereby rendering the person in a state of ritual purity. So purification has got two layers. One is to actually clean yourself of the dirt, and then the next is to actually be in a state of ritual purity. So to be in a state of having wudu, to be in a state of not needing ghusl. That's a state. Someone who doesn't have wudu isn't necessarily dirty, Someone may be very smelling fragrant and very squeaky clean, but may not have wudu, and so therefore is considered to be impure, but in its ritual sense, in its sort of, fiqhi, ibadah sense. But as for physically, they are clean. A masjid may be clean, her clothes may be clean. And so there are two types of purifications. One which is the actual removal of dirt, and the other is the ritual state of purity, which is being in a state of wudu or being in a state of ghusl, and so on and so forth. So that's what is understood when we say the word purification in fiqh, tahara. So purification and tahara is valid with the following types of water. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't know of any other types of water except for tap water and sink water and so on. But originally all water comes from either rain, or the well water, or the spring water, or the river water, or the sea water. Okay, and if you think Thames water, then that's also river water, and water from melted snow or hail. So all of these are sources of water. Sea water, even if it's salty, is a type of water that you may use for your wudu, even though it may be somewhat questionable to some because I can taste flavor in it, but nonetheless, sea water. And so well water, rain water, well water, spring water, river water, sea water, ocean water is included there. Water melted from snow, you have a bunch of snow. If say for example someone decides to turn their freezer off and then collect all of that ice, and that turns into water, you can use that for wudu as well, no problem whatsoever. As well as hail, which is, we don't really have much hail in the UK, but you have hailstones sometimes that if it melts eventually, it's like a small chunk of ice, and if that melts, that's also the type of water you can use. Such water may be used for purification as long as it remains purifying. So a water that's used for wudu and for ghusl, for purifying, for purification, okay, the way they look at water is, one is water that is pure by itself. Tahir is pure by itself. But then there is another type of purity which is pure by itself and also can purify. I'll give you an example. If you get a glass of Pepsi Okay, it's pure, it's clean, you can drink it. But can you do wudu with it? So that's the difference. So one is tahir, is clean to drink. Another one is tahur, you can clean with it. And so that's important to understand, because what he's saying is that such water may be used for purification as long as it remains purifying. So what does that mean? Namely, so for a water to remain, any of the aforementioned, the previously mentioned waters, for it to remain purifying, to remain with its natural characteristics, with nothing having been mixed with it, such as to condition it. So the water should be in its natural form. The rainwater should be like how is water, the color is like water, the smell is like water, the taste is like water. If someone has changed the taste or the smell or the color of the water, then thereby the water may be leaving its natural state of being water and therefore being purifying. And so for a water to be used, such water may be used for purification as long as it remains purifying, namely to remain with its natural characteristics, with nothing having been mixed with it, such as to condition it and thereby removing its purifying tahur quality. It may still be clean, but for it to be tahur, purifying, it will be removed. One such example is, for example, we'll come to later inshallah. For example, someone collected the wudu water of another person. Someone is making wudu, someone else is collecting all that water. Can that same water which has just been used for wudu be used again? You can't be. Though that water may be drunk, because the person's body may be completely clean. That water can be drunk, it's tahir to drink, but it's not tahur, it's not purifying. So there's two differences. One is something that's clean and cleaning. That's a good, important differentiation, because that's where we need to understand what kind of qualities or what kind of differences remove the water, take it out of from being pure to purifying, or take it from being purifying to just pure. So pure is a lower level than purifying. This ruling applies whether the water is flowing or in a large cistern, large massive tank, large massive pool, large massive different, like in our back home they have like fukoils or fushkuruni and all of that, diki. They have these different like massive pools of water and so on. Sorry? Yeah, no, kita is not kita is it? Yeah. Exactly. So kita is just it means what, but the pool is called fukoil and fushkuruni, or it's called diki. It means it's the name of the actual well itself, or a large system of water. This ruling applies whether the water is flowing or in large cistern, namely, or one with a surface area of at least 10 by 10 cubits, with a depth such that its floor is not exposed by scooping the water out. So the definition is given quickly of a large cistern, as in a large bowl, whereby the water can be used and put back into it, and it would automatically be cleansed again. So we said that if you were to do wudu with it, and then could that same water be used again for wudu? It couldn't, unless it was put back into a large cistern, and that would automatically renew and refresh that water, which can then be used for wudu again. So what is that large cistern? What is the definition of it? 10 by 10 cubits with a depth such that its floor is not exposed by scooping water. So it has to be quite relatively deep, as well as 10 by 10 cubits, which is a very large cistern. Now we come to, inshallah, ablution and wudu. Okay, so what is wudu? Allah Azza wa Jal has legislated wudu as a form of purifying us and preparing us for our ibadah. Allah says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ وإن كنتم جنبا فاطهروا وإن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لامستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا صعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم منه. And Allah is in this ayah telling us about wudu. And so wudu is something that's legislated by the Quran, as well as the Sunnah, as well as ijma', as well as there's no need for anything else, because that's more than enough as evidence. So what happens is, when you go to things in fiqh, you usually try to draw evidence for it and reference for it in the Quran and in the Sunnah, and also if there is ijma' on it, then ijma' on it as well. So wudu, without a shadow of a doubt, is of course established by all three of these sources of evidence. The obligatory integrals of wudu in the Hanafi school of law are four things. There are four fara'id of wudu in the Hanafi school of law. What are they? What is the four fara'id? Does anybody know? I'm sure everyone knows. Yeah, you told last time. So washing the face, whose lengthwise demarcation is from the top of the forehead to the bottom of the chin for someone with a thick beard. As for the one, or for one with a thick beard, or for one with the beard, sorry, let me say that again. The washing of the face, length is from the tip of the hair, from the top of the forehead, which is the tip of the hair, to the bottom of the chin for someone without a thick beard. So if you don't have a thick beard, then the bottom of the chin is where your face ends. Now what happens when someone's got a thick beard? You can't expect them to, wash that, because it's not possible, because there's beard there. So then what is the wudu demarcation of a person with a thick beard? A thin beard is considered to be like a person with a no beard, because you can get the water in there. But we're talking about really bushy, really thick beard, like a lot of brothers, mashallah, that they have. So what's the ruling for that? That is that a person, or for the person with a thick beard, to the bottom of their beard. So you wash the face, including the beard, and then you also rub your fingers in between to make sure that the water is reaching. It's called takhlil al-lihya, which is to do khilal and to put your fingers and run your fingers through that. But first and foremost is to understand what is the demarcation, what's the area, surface area of the face. It's from the tip of the hair until the bottom of the chin for the person with no beard, and for a person with a beard is the whole face. Now, someone should understand that from that it's not evidence that you shouldn't have a beard. Rather, it's showing you the two possibilities of a person having a beard or not having a beard, how they would do wudu. As for his width, his demarcation is from the one earlobe to the other earlobe. So all of this entire area, for it to be washed once, is fardh. But that once should have covered all of the area with water. All of it should. If there's some missing, some part which is not being touched with water in any of this section, then that means the fardh of the first fardh of wudu, which is washing of the face is not complete. Then the second fardh of wudu, as you know, is washing of the two arms up to and including the elbows. Up to and including the elbows. So this is included. Ila al-marafiq, it means including the elbows should be washed. To wash it at least once is fardh. To wash it 3 times is sunnat. Then wiping a fourth of the head, 1/4. So a fourth is basically the size of a person's palm or a hand. So that much is usually a quarter. That's another quarter, that's another quarter, that's another quarter. So to wipe at least a quarter of a person's head is fardh. And to wipe more, i.e. the whole of the head, is actually sunnah. But we're of course covering, the fiqh works like that. We cover systematically what's fardh, then what's sunnah, then what's nafal mustahab, and we'll go in that order so that you know what's first priority. It doesn't mean that you leave out the sunnah. It just means that we are studying it in that systematic way. As a student of knowledge, it's important that you know how to differentiate between these kind of things. So wiping a fourth of the head is the third faridah or fardh of wudu in the school of law. Washing the 2 feet up to and including the ankles, and making sure that the water reaches all. When we say washing, it means that the water has reached every single part of that skin. Okay, as much as physically is possible, is also considered to be the fourth faridah of wudu, inshallah. So these are the 4 fara'id of wudu. Next, what we'll do is we'll be studying what are the sunan of wudu. Does that make sense? Inshallah, we'll go to that now, bi'idhnillah. But so far, we've covered, just for you to understand, just to recap as we proceed, it's very important that we've understood what tahara or purification is. We've understood what kind of waters you can use. We've also understood that there are 4 fara'id, and the reason why it's 4 fara'id and not 5 and 6 is because those are the 4 parts that have been mentioned specifically by Allah in the Quran. So the reason why something is fard and then or something else is wajib or sunnah is because of the evidence behind it. If the evidence behind it is, say for example, qat'i al-thubut and qat'i al-dilala, there's a lot of usul al-fiqh behind it, but ultimately it is fard because those are the parts that have been mentioned specifically in the Quran, and so they are considered to be fard. Other parts of the body are established from a hadith, and so therefore they are considered to be generally from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sunnah of the Prophet. That's not to say that everything that's in the hadith is always sunnah. Something may be fard and may be established by sunnah or hadith. It depends on the level of the hadith, tawatur, and so on and so forth. But that is why it's fard, 4 things. And if you read the ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, wash your faces, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, and your arms, إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, your elbows, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, and wipe your head and wash your feet as well. So this is mentioned specifically, and so those 4 parts are fara'id. Now, among the emphasized sunan and sunnahs of wudu are the following. The intention. Niyyah in the Hanafi school of law is not fard for wudu, it's sunnah. So if someone, for example, what that means is, for you to understand, I'm not encouraging it. What it means is that if someone was to go into start doing wudu and had no intention of doing wudu, had no intention of purity, and just started washing their face and etc., their wudu would be done nonetheless, according to the Hanafi school of law. But nonetheless, it is sunnah to have intention. That means it is rewarding and you should not miss it out without an excuse. You should not make a habit of missing out. You should do it all the time. But if someone missed it, that means the wudu is still complete. In that it is, the fara'id have been completed. So the intention is the niyyah of making in your heart or in your mind that, oh Allah, I'm making wudu to purify myself, for ibadah, or salah and so on. This should be done in your mind. Then also from the sunan is the miswak and siwak. So to brush your teeth with a miswak stick. Though someone may be brushing their teeth with toothpaste and toothbrush is good. It's good, it's contributing to the siwak itself, but the siwak itself is a separate sunnah. And the Prophet ﷺ did say in a hadith that had it not been for the fact that I didn't want to make it difficult for my ummah, I would have asked them to do miswak at every single salah, regularly, more often. But nonetheless, miswak is a sunnah of the wudu. The third sunnah is to mention Allah's name at the beginning of your wudu, tasmiyah, to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim when you start. The fourth is to wash the hands up to and including the wrist in the beginning of wudu. So washing your hands including the wrist, again, you should do it all the time. But in terms of its priority and its categorization, is it fard or is it sunnah? It's sunnah. But sunnah doesn't mean leave it out. There's some people think, oh, you said it's sunnah, that means I don't have to do it. No, sunnah, that means you have to do it still. So it's the Prophet ﷺ sunnah, so you should do it. Sunnah mu'akkada, it's an emphasized sunnah, which means the Prophet ﷺ said it and commanded it and never ever, except for maybe rare occasions, left it out. Does that make sense? And so washing your hands, including your wrists 3 times, is what we know to be the first sunnah, because we probably don't know about niyyah, we don't know about miswak, we don't know about bismillah, but these are also sunnah. So niyyah, miswak, and bismillah are all sunnah, emphasized sunnah in fact. And then also washing your hands, including your wrists. So now, just the benefit of understanding this is, say for example, if one day someone accidentally forgot to wash their hands, their wrist, and went straight to washing their face, would their wudu still be valid? It would be valid because they would have completed their fard nonetheless. But again, we're not encouraging it, it's for you to know, and we're showing the examples so you can differentiate between what's fard and what's sunnah. Maintaining the correct order of limbs as well as as Allah the Most High has said in the book. That means to do the wudu in order. You don't start with your feet. You don't start with your arms. You start with your hands and your face and so on. You follow the order as Allah has mentioned it in the Quran. Now I'll give you the contrast example. If, say for example, someone forgetfully just washed their arms first and then their face, is their wudu still valid? It's valid because they done their fard, but they missed the sunnah. I'm not saying they should miss the sunnah, but it's to understand that they have done the fard, which is of actual washing, but the order is from the sunnah, and so you should maintain the sunnah all the time. You should never miss it at all because it's an emphasized sunnah. There is another sunnah, number 6, called continuity. It's called al-muwalah. To not leave any gaps out. So not, for example, to wash your face and then go for a cup of tea and then come and wash your arms and then go and do something else. You know what I'm trying to say? You should be, wudu you start and you finish it in one go. That's from the sunnah, emphasize sunnah. You should never leave a gap in between your wudu parts. But for argument's sake, sister's doing wudu, she's washed her arms, she's washed her face, she's washed her face, washed her arms. All of a sudden the baby starts crying. Khalas, she has to quickly go and look after the baby. Because mothers have a very difficult. I'm just giving an example. She doesn't have to be a mother. But she has to go and do something. She comes back. Does that mean she has to start the wudu from the beginning again? No, she doesn't. Because to maintain continuity from the sunnah, she can in fact carry on from where she left off. If she just washed her arms, and then she would go to the next part, which is to wipe her head and to wash her feet and so on. That doesn't mean that you should leave out continuity. You should do continuity all the time, but know its level, know its categorization, know its hukum shar'i, It's where it stands legally, and so that you can treat it as such, which means to never leave it out, sunnah mu'akkada. Continuity is also from the sunan of wudu. Then also to wash every limb that you wash 3 times. Washing your hands 3 times, face 3 times. And so if someone washed once, their fard would be done, but the sunnah would not. And so you should wash. At-tathlithu min as-sunnah. Tathlith and doing thalatha, make everything 3 times, is also from the sunnah and the sunan of wudu. Also from wudu is rinsing your entire mouth. And these are commonly unknown things perhaps. Rinsing your entire mouth is not fard. Rather it's a sunnah. Siwak is also, of course, sunnah. So imagine a person does the miswak and rinses the mouth. Imagine how clean they'll become, how fresh they'll become. It's just amazing. That's what the Prophet said that قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الطهور شطر الإيمان and نصف الإيمان. My son learned that hadith recently in nursery or reception, and he keeps on saying it. He said, I've learned a hadith قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الطهور شطر الإيمان. That's amazing. So inshallah, maybe if he's watching, he'll know that I've quoted his hadith here. So this is our religion is about purity and cleanliness. You see, so if a Muslim is somehow unhygienic, unclean, stinks, masjid, this is a serious situation. Recently, a friend told me that once they visited the masjid with the sheikh, and the bathroom was at the beginning of the entrance, like in a lot of mosques. Even ours is like, obviously we've got a door and it's kind of on the side. But some mosques you just have to go in, toilets are there, and then you go to the masjid. This sheikh was saying, when I went into the masjid, it was so stinky, I didn't know whether to read the dua of the toilet or the masjid. Can you imagine? We're laughing, but this is a serious matter. House of Allah, malaika are there. Malaika don't like stinky stuff. They don't go to the toilets. It's the khubth wal khaba'ith and the shayateen that's in the bathroom. So subhanallah, at-tatayyub, to fragrance ourselves, to smell nice, is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is something for Muslims to really wake up to. Our houses shouldn't be stinky. Our clothes shouldn't be stinky. Our breath shouldn't be stinky. Our underarms shouldn't be stinky. We should smell nice. We should look nice. We should appear and smell and feel and everything good. This is from the Islam. This inna Allah jameel yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. If you're doing wudu 5 times a day properly, brushing your teeth with miswak and etc., and you're maintaining a healthy diet of not eating too much, not having too much fatty food, having 1/3, can you imagine? The end product is, mashallah, a healthy, handsome brother, or of course, mashallah, sister in her own rights, maintaining a health and etc., clean, pure. This is what Islamic lifestyle is teaching us. We are, subhanallah, very strange. We're far from it, and that's why we are suffering in these regards of hygiene and so on and so forth. So let's be careful about that, even in the masajid, wherever we may be, inshallah. Coming to washing your mouth 3 times, like this, like that. And then also from the sunan is gargling. And spitting out the water is also from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, to rinse the mouth 3 times is from the sunan mu'akkada, emphasize sunan. And then also running one's wet fingers through the beard, takhlilul lihya, as we've said before. So to wash initially, including the beard, is the fard. But then to run it also through your fingers through the beard is from the sunnah mu'akkada, takhlilul lihya. Running one's wet fingers through their fingers and their toes, takhlil al-asabi', do khilal of the fingers and toes, is also from the sunnah mu'akkada. Also from the sunnah mu'akkada, number 11 is wiping one's entire head. One's wet fingers. One's entire head, including the ears. Including the ears is also from the sunan mu'akkada. So the whole head and the ears. We'll come to the back of the neck later on, because that's also mentioned, and it's actually it's an actual mas'ala in the Hanafi school, although some find it, other people find it strange sometimes, but it is there, and there's evidence for it. Everything, it doesn't just squeeze itself into the books randomly because of no evidence. Rather, everything has to be backed. You are, where's the evidence? You're not quoting many hadith here. Well, this is a primer. It's a primer. You don't go to school and study primary level science and say, where's the evidence? Say, physics says that gravity, apple, it falls downwards. But like, where is the evidence? Where's the numerals behind that? Where's the research behind that? You're not going to ask that as a 5-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid. Well, we are 5-year-old and 10-year-old kids here right now when it comes to fiqh, because it's a primer, it's a beginning text. So some people just misunderstand, so it's important. Doesn't mean to say that I can't produce a book which has got all of the evidences listed. Come to my office, I'll show you volumes and volumes of works. These are like, each mas'ala will take you, for example, maybe 20, 30 pages. All the evidences, what the discussions, what the Shafi'i have said, what the Maliki have said, what the Hanabila have said, and what are the counter back and forth. Why is it that they maintain the Hanafi school of law in these positions and others have maintained otherwise? It's all there. It's in my office. It's available online. It's available with the ulama. So, it's the reason why we cover overall in summary here is because this is a primer and it's not designed. If you want, mashallah, if you have an interest in studying detail, then you should read more. You should read bigger books. You should go to Jamia. You should become an alim and so on. You can access this knowledge. No problem whatsoever. More than welcome to. Okay. Wiping the entire head is also from the sunnah. Rubbing the limbs when washing them. Dalk, to rub it, to make sure that the water is going in, is also from an emphasized sunnah. Starting with the right limb, at-tayamun, is also from the sunnah. Sunnah mu'akkada, of course, these are all the sunnah mu'akkada. Starting with the tip of the fingers and toes when washing the feet. So you can wash your arms that way, from the back, like that, as you do it under the sink a lot of the time. Like you start here. But to do it from the top is sunnah. Sunnah mu'akkada. You can wash your feet with the ankle first, like some of us do in wudu, because the sink is up there. So you must do it like that. But to do it like this is sunnah mu'akkada. Starting with the front of the head when wiping is also, in case someone decides to start from the back. Start from the front is from the sunnah mu'akkada. Wiping the back of the neck, but not the throat, is also from the sunnah. And now if you go to other schools, they'll be laughing and Hanafi saying, oh, where'd you get that from? But there is evidence for it. In Musannaf and Abi Shayba. Other books, inshallah, that's a separate discussion for a separate day. We will suffice with this for today. Types of water, faraid of wudu, and sunan of wudu. There are also adab, mustahabbat, etiquettes of wudu. And then of course there are the makruhat of wudu, and there are, the invalidators of wudu, nawaqid al wudu and so on. Inshallah, all of that is to come. Next lesson, bi'idhnillah, azza wa jal. Tomorrow is our hadith class, don't miss that. And of course Friday is our tafsir class. Thank you all for joining. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
If I perform all the fardh of wudu in the shower, do I come out with wudu in the shower?
Yes.
Yeah, simple as that.
In the Hanafi school of law, if you have a shower, you automatically go on wudu as well.
Yeah.
Though it's sunnah to do wudu first and then do shower. So it doesn't cancel that. The sunnah is to do it in that order. But if somebody jumps into a pool and has a shower, they automatically have wudu as well.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a intention for it.
That's sunnah.
If
If you don't have intention, it's still done. It's still done. They have a principle in the Hanafi school of law. Intention is mandatory for those ibadat which are ibadat by themselves. But as for those ibadat which are an extension of an ibadah, then intention is not per se required for that. So wudu itself is an extension of ibadah. It's to prepare you for salah. So that...
It is for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that intention we're talking about, for salah, intention is required. Because that's the actual ibadah itself. I'm not arguing, I'm not debating. I'm just telling you the background to how they work. So as you've just read, the fara'id are the 5 things. Intention is from the sunan. Best. I know in other schools of law, intention is also wajib. In fact, what I'll do, I do have the Bidayatul Mujtahid of Ibn al-Arabi al-Maliki, which is in fact the actual fiqh textbook that they study in Medina University, and we also studied some of it in Azhar, as a comparative fiqh. I'll bring that in so we can read through who considers what to be fardh. So we know, it's nothing secret, so that we can see, for example, Shafi'is, what do they say to be the conditions of wudu, what do the Malikis say, so that we all know, and each according to their madhab, inshallah, you can follow that. Yes, sir.
You answered the question.
Barakallah fikum. So we'll bring that in. I was literally looking at it today. Shall I bring it in? Shall I bring it not? MashaAllah, we have educated people among us, so no problem, inshallah, we'll bring it in. Barakallah fikum. You're Yemeni, you said, right?
Iraqi.
Iraqi, so you're Shafi'i, I believe.
No.
Nah, mashallah. أحسن الناس. We love Ahl Iraq, we love everybody, alhamdulillah. And Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i was there in Iraq for a long period of time, in Baghdad, mashallah. He went there twice, in fact. Once for seeking knowledge, and then eventually he settled in Misr. And prior to that, of course, he was born in Gaza, he was in Mecca, he was in Medina. So the Shafi'i school of law and how it evolved and grew is there. Baghdad and Iraq had a significant impact, and they were thereby also impacted. But that's the amazing thing about Iraq. All of the ulama were there. Imam Hanifa was there, except Imam Malik, of course, he was there in Medina. But the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and the Muhaddithun and so on, it just list carries on. It's amazing. Inshallah, I'll bring that in next time as well, so we'll go through that, inshallah, in brief.
Give a brief summary of Imam Malik as well, as Imam Malik.
Imam Malik, in terms of his biography,
What you just did for Imam Shafi'i.
Imam Malik, of course, is, La yufta wa Malik fil Medina. Imam Malik was the greatest scholar, one of the greatest scholars of his time, and he used to be said that you are not to give fatwa so long as Malik is in Medina. That's the level of knowledge and authority that he had. And his gap between him and the Prophet ﷺ in terms of narration, of hadith, of fiqh, of everything, it was very short because he was in Medina. And he had in his school of law something very amazing, what is called Amal Ahlul Medina. He used to take evidence, that which the Medinans are doing, as a form of a source of evidence. Other schools, of course, differed because they said, well, Amal Ahlul Medina could be different from that could have evolved and so on. That's a long discussion. But Malik, subhanAllah, his Muwatta, his book of hadith, is a book in its own right. After the 6 books, Imam Malik's Muwatta is considered to be one of those most important books that are studied for fiqh and so on and so forth. But yeah, if you want to read the biography of Malik, it's there as well. There's no biography class, of course, but I thought let's add that in to just as a piece of a tangent and a bit of information, inshallah. طيب يا جماعة جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم واشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته مرحبا